what's up, everybody? Welcome to the first pilot episode of Star Wars Breaking episode with me, Tmac01, and my co-host here, Nate Slater.
How's it going?
So essentially, this podcast here, if you guys are watching or listening to it, we're gonna talk everything Star Wars. We're gonna begin everything from episode 1 and then stem from there. Technically, we should be doing High Republic first, right? I think we should be doing High Republic first, but that's a little bit more on the prequel sides.
If you think about it, well, technically this is a prequel too, but it's a prequel to the prequels. But it's not technically finished yet because they went back 100 years, and now the next part, when they go into part 3 of the High Republic, they're gonna go even further back. So.
Well, it's like chronologically, I mean, technically, High Republic or Old Republic should be first, and then but we're starting from like episode 1 for now, because once we get to like the Old Republic and then the New Republic, that becomes a little bit more confusing.
Yeah,
I think for some people, because that's like when the Force was actually first wielded and all that stuff, and you got all these people. It becomes like it's kind of odds. You gotta have to play the game for the Old Republic and the High Republic, and then you gotta have to read the comic books with that too as well, right? So there's a lot to uncover there. So we're probably just gonna start with like chronologically with the movies and the TV shows for now. So we're gonna obviously start with episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is something that's it's funny though, because when The Phantom Menace first came out, this movie was hated. Do you remember that? When it first came out?
I remember seeing it in theaters when it first came out, and I was 14, and I was like, "Oh my god, this movie's great." Give it a few more years, and you're like, "Wow, that was horrible."
it was kind of funny though, because for some people, for a lot of generations, I would say like a lot of millennials who was introduced to Star Wars, they were introduced to the episode 4, 5, and 6, right?
Yeah.
But they never really had, or we never really had a Star Wars on our own, right? The Star Wars we never really had a Star Wars. Exactly. We never had a Star Wars to call our own. So so when episode 1 came out, there was like a lot of excitement with the old Star Wars fans, and then you have the newer ones being introduced to it, right? I remember even Conan O'Brien made like a skit over it. I don't know if you saw it. You didn't see that with that dog. I forgot his name. Insult the Comic Dog.
Triumph.
Insult the Comic Dog. And then he brought in a cosplayer that's Spock, and was giving everybody the finger that's in line for episode 1. It was fucking hilarious, man. But no, this movie was really hated, man. Not a lot of people remember that. And this was pre-internet. And it was widely hated. And I didn't understand why. And a lot of it has to do with the old Star Wars fans, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't like the whole. I don't know what they didn't like about it. Like I mean, like as Advent, you're more of a Star Wars fan than I am. I'm more of a casual Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
You're more of a historian kind of Star Wars fan. Why would the old Star Wars people fans would not like episode 1?
Several reasons. One, the overabundance of CGI. 2, which after rewatching it, it sticks out like a sore thumb now. Like, it's at least with episode 1, it's the worst, and it's just, you cannot unsee the fact how bad the CGI is.
Well, I mean, at that time it was fine. Okay. At the time it was fine. I mean, like, you gotta have to look at it this way. Okay. At the time when episode 4, 5, and 6 were made, there wasn't really there was nothing really innovative in there. I mean, like, the most innovative CG at the time was Superman, the first one with Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. That won like an Academy Award for best visual effects. You're just like, what? This one of visual effects? And then Star Wars came and it blew everybody's mind, right? I think what people hated it the most is that because it was brand new, right? And I feel like, I know we're not in episode 7, 8, 9 yet, but I truly believe that 7, 8, 9 will be following the footsteps of episode 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, 100%.
Because right now, episode 1, 2, and 3 is being celebrated,
Yep.
which is something that I never thought would happen. Because when I first saw episode 1, it was so hated that, it even took Christian Hayden's career down with it.
Yep.
Right? It even took his career down. The kid who played the young Anakin,
Jake Lloyd.
yeah, also took his career down, right? It was brutal. It was that brutal. Like if you think like, for all the sensitive people out there, if you think nowadays everyone's like really mean, this is pre-internet. There was no way of actually just getting word out there the way that we get the word out now, and it took down 2 people's career. It was that bad, right?
Yep.
But I never really thought this movie was that bad. The best thing about this movie is obviously Darth Maul, which we'll talk about Darth Maul later on. Darth Maul was the best one, and without a doubt, his reveal was the best thing that ever happened in all of Star Wars. Like, in my opinion, in all of Star Wars.
Not even Darth Vader?
Not even Darth Vader reveal. Okay. Darth Vader reveal is just like, oh yeah, he's tall and black. I mean, like, I see a lot of tall black guys all the time, but I'm just saying that wasn't real. Like, back then in the 70s, they're just like, oh my God, right? There's this tall black guy with a red lightsaber and all that stuff, right? But we'll talk about it when we get to that part when Darth Maul was revealed. That was like the whole shit moment. You know what I mean? There isn't that much whole shit moment nowadays because the advent of the internet, everything's just spoiled to you now.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh yeah, I know that's gonna happen. Oh yeah, it looks nice, right? That's why when the Mandalorian, when they revealed Luke Skywalker at the end of, was that season 2? Is it?
Season 2. He was in episode or season 1.
Season 1. No, at the end.
Yeah, episode 8, season 1.
Is it season 1? Okay. So, are you sure? I thought it was season 2.
Are you questioning me?
Yeah, I am. Okay. When Luke was like revealed at the end of it, I mean, you knew it was Luke, but
yeah.
It was like, oh my God. It's more of like, yeah, they got Mark Hamill back. Oh my God. Not like, holy shit, Darth Maul kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we'll start with the very beginning of this movie. I think the movie kind of began really, really kind of slow. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was kind of slow, and it kind of just broke it down as kind of like a how should I say this? A kind of like a democratic kind of like conversationist kind of thing. Does that make sense? Because like the Jedi wasn't doing Jedi stuff.
If you're talking about like a snooze fest, yeah.
It was. It was, man. It was, and there wasn't that much lightsaber stuff that happened.
I mean, at the beginning, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of like, fighting the droids here and there at the beginning, which was kind of cool. It was cool to actually see like them use force speed, which they've only used like once in the whole entire movies.
Did they ever use that on the comic books too, or no? The force speed?
From the ones that I've read.
Because I don't think I've seen so, them.
But I'm pretty sure out there is probably some use of it.
Like, when's the last time that they use force speed?
Episode 1.
That was it?
Out of like anything that I've seen that I can remember, yeah. I mean, maybe they've used it in the Clone Wars, but really, like, I mean, in the Clone Wars show, it's kind of like everything's over exaggerated anyway.
I don't think I've seen it in the Clone Wars show. I don't think so.
But I just think episode 1 is like where we only see it, and they only use it for that, like one little split second to run away from the destroyer droids.
That was kind of weird. I don't know. That was kind of weird. The force speed thing. Like it came and go. It came and gone pretty much. like it wasn't like, I don't know. I think the most avid, the most like hardcore Star Wars fan when they first saw that, I don't think they were just like, oh my god, it's force speed. Everyone just like thought kind of just they just ran. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just kind of just seemed like they kind of ran, and it was just kind of weird. And the introduction of Jar Jar, that's man, I felt sorry for that guy. He
That's
had
another career.
that's another career. Yeah, that's right. What's his name? The guy who played Jar Jar?
Ahmed Best.
Ahmed Best. Yeah, I mean, I was so happy that he had a redemption on Obi-Wan.
Yes, that was cool.
That was the most amazing thing I've ever
Wait,
like.
Obi-Wan? You mean Mandalorian season 3?
Was it Mandalorian when
Yeah,
they did a flashback on it?
yeah.
Yeah, when they did the flashback. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I was so happy for him, man. Like I was so happy that he got a redemption
I
that
was
he went
wondering if they're gonna give him a purple lightsaber too. I'm like, what? No, he didn't get
right. But
it.
I was more of just kind of when I first saw him in the Mandalorian, I was more concerned. I was like, wait, because there is a theory out there that
Jar Jar's a
that
Sith.
Jar Jar is a Sith,
Yep.
right? So you're just like, wait a minute, how is this possible, right? So that's another career that actually got taken down. But the introduction of Jar Jar was kind of weird. It
Well,
was very odd.
that's another reason why the old school Star Wars people hated it, because George Lucas also geared things more towards children, even though George Lucas says he's gone on record saying Star Wars is for children. I don't think necessarily originally that's how it went. I think he just used that as an
Yeah,
excuse because maybe during that time he's like, I need
yeah,
more money, sell more toys. I'm gonna make things
yeah.
for kids.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen the Toys That Made Us, the Toys That Made Us was actually amazing because it broke down Star Wars itself, right? And essentially, George Lucas took all his financial, took all his money, made himself really broke, and then on top of getting broke, he took on a loan, more loans on Star Wars, and people have no idea why he's doing this and if it's ever gonna float. But in his mind, he knew for a fact that this was gonna make toys, and that's where he's gonna get his money. And he was brilliant at it, right? That's why Disney bought Star Wars, is because it's all about the toys, so it's all about the merch, right? And he made so much money out of the merch because I believe he took like more percentage on the toy parts when they were making the toys.
Well, his deal was, from what I understand, he forego his, I think, either producer or his directorial fee
Right.
for Star Wars to own the
Yeah,
rights to the characters and its,
yeah,
the property itself, so he could sell make the money off the toys,
right.
and that's how he made his money.
But but he also made the right choice by making all that money. He
Yep.
paid his crews like bonuses, like rightfully,
Yeah,
right?
he
It's
earned it.
like episode 2, I mean no, episode 5, 4, no,
Empire
6.
Strikes Back.
Yeah, no, yeah, episode
That's
5.
that's fine.
I'm not gonna hell. Episode 5, yeah, episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. They said that he paid him handsomely and gave him bonuses to almost to the point that he almost didn't get any cut on
And
on that initial investment. But
the funny thing too is that Spaceballs was actually making fun of the fact that
yeah,
the whole merchandising thing in general,
yeah,
George Lucas helped make Spaceballs as well.
yeah.
So it's kind of funny how that worked.
And then yeah, so the introduction of like Jar Jar was just kind of weird, and you obviously knew he kind of just inserted Jar Jar there for the toys,
And the
right?
kids, yeah.
For the toys. And the first 30 minutes of this movie was just, oh my god, man, it was a snooze fest, man. It was a snooze fest, but it was George Lucas's vision. So essentially, if you were to take the blueprint of episode 4 and you kind of just he just kind of copied and pasted it and then did the exact same thing on episode 1, right? Like the idea, the format of introduction. Does that make sense? Like I felt like that's what he did. Because if you see episode 4 and if you watch it now, it's just as boring as the first 30 minutes of episode 1. Does that make sense? Like it's just as boring. Because like if you really think about how episode 4 started, right? In the spaceship and the chase and all that stuff, right? After that, it was just all talking. It's the same thing as episode 1. There was just no chasing and all that stuff, but that action part of it in space was with the droids.
Yeah.
With the what are they called? They're not called battle droids. I don't know that they were called something else.
What are you referring to, episode 1 or episode 4?
Episode 1.
Yeah, yeah, battle droids.
Are they called battle droids?
Yeah.
Are they really? Oh my god. So there was that same action packed in there, and then they went back and forth between Naboo, and then they went back and forth between where the Jedi's are, right?
Yeah.
That it's the thing about this movie that confuses me so much, right? When they did the Force run,
okay,
there was a cutscene. All of a sudden, they're in Naboo, just running away from like all these tanks and Qui-Gon just saving Jar Jar.
okay.
Like does that make sense? Like it doesn't. Like I knew they hid in the cargo to go to Naboo. You know that.
Yeah, because they said that.
But you didn't see that scene. Does that make sense? It's like if I was to tell you, hey man, I'm just gonna go get something to drink, and then all of a sudden the next thing you just see me in the kitchen, like in between, you didn't see me walking, getting the drink, and then pouring it.
Well, I think they didn't go that far is because of the amount of time. In fact, there's what would you call it? Like a rumor going around that originally episode 1 they had a cut of the film that was 6 hours long.
There's a 6-hour
long cut of the film. In fact, if you have the original DVD, I think the first Blu-ray release and maybe the second Blu-ray release or the final Blu-ray release,
yeah,
there is maybe about another out of all 3 of those releases,
right?
Maybe just with that another hour and a half to 2 hours of cut content you can see that they cut out of the movie.
Why did they cut it so long? I mean, why did they leave it on the cutting room floor?
Some of it was hold on. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Some of it was just more talking. Some of it was, let's see, there was more added on to, which some of it they shouldn't have taken out, because some of it, like when Darth Maul was fighting Qui-Gon Jinn on Tatooine when they're getting ready to leave, they had more to that.
Right.
They had after like the whole going through the planet core and the sub thing, there was a whole waterfall scene that they took out, which makes sense.
Right. It was just
a lot of like stuff that didn't need to be there. You were getting too far from the point.
I guess so.
In fact,
I think I see what you're coming from.
In fact, the original release when it first came out,
right,
when they were doing the pod racing scene,
right.
Actually, now there's 3 laps in the pod racing scene, but in the original theatrical cut, I think it was just 2 laps. So they cut it out, and then he reinserted it later on.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I gotta take a look at that. Is that on Disney Plus or no?
The deleted scenes, no.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
I don't know. They could be there, but I have like the Blu-ray, one of the Blu-rays where it shows some of the stuff.
Right.
But not all of it. You need like.
Man, it was just the first 30 minutes were just really confusing for me. Them getting down to Naboo and all that stuff. I agree. There was a lot of things that's unnecessary in there and all that stuff. And then when they got to Tatooine, there was like more talking in the Tatooine. Like literally the movie didn't pick up until the pod racing scene.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's when the actual movie started to pick up. Right, because they had to introduce Queen Amidala, and then there was like more talking with Queen Amidala. There was like an unnecessary scene there with the ambassadors, the Chinese ambassadors, Who are we fooling? They were Chinese, man. We knew that.
I was like, wait.
Okay, they were, who are we fooling, man? They were Asian, man. But they sounded Chinese, Japanese, like mixed together. It was like the most craziest accent that they made. But who are we kidding? They were Asian, all right. So Queen Amidala was talking to those Asian aliens.
Not
uh
aliens.
they're talking to Asian aliens. There was like one scene where just like, Queen Amidala, we've been expecting you. Cut scene. It's like, like, did you really need that? It's like the scenes that they need, they cut, and the scenes that they didn't need, they put in there. It was very odd. It was so odd. I don't know, man. Is it just maybe it's just me? I don't know if you noticed those on those cutscenes on the Naboo part.
I mean, it didn't bother me too much. What bothered me was like maybe really what bothered me was the overuse of Jar Jar being comic relief when you really didn't need it.
Yeah, you didn't really need him there. Yeah,
Like that was a little too much, and that's what bothered a lot of people.
yeah. He was pretty useless. I think what bothered people more too as well is that he wasn't in episode 2 or 3.
Well, the reason, well, he was and he wasn't. He was just cut down.
Yeah, it was like
hated him.
He was like an ambassador or something. He was like floating in like the disc or something like that. I get it, but like he was just used a number as episode 1, and that was it. And people hoped that they were gonna use him more in episode 2 and 3, and then they're just like, so that was it for Jar Jar, right? Like, so that was it, man.
Jar Jar was like, George Lucas was really wanted. He's like, Jar Jar is like gonna be like, he's it. He's the key to everything.
Yeah,
you know? Like he's basically he was betting everything on Jar Jar, and it just fell apart.
Yeah, it started with the Ewoks, man. Like inserting something just for the hell of it, right? It started with Ewoks, and then you got your Jar Jar, and then on the newer Star Wars, you had we're not talking about like the TV show, but the movie. What is that little creature that fixes things? That's in the
Babu
I think
Frank.
it was I was thinking episode 8.
Babu
You know what?
Frank, episode
Yeah.
9. Yeah.
There you go. Babu Frank, man. So it's just one of those things. They just kind of insert things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like in the Mandalorian, yes, there's like, there's Grogu, but we know for a fact that was just inserted there too as well.
Yeah. Well,
like literally,
that was the one thing that worked.
Like, think about it this way, man. It's kind of like Indiana Jones. Okay, I know we're talking about Star Wars, but George Lucas still. It's kind of like Indiana Jones. Did you know that if you take Indiana Jones out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Last Crusades, the Temple of Doom, all those Indiana Jones from 1 to 3, the movie would have still ended the exact same way. You don't need Indiana Jones there whatsoever. He was useless. Think about it really hard, man. He was useless. Indiana Jones was fucking useless. They don't need him there. On the main plot of the movies, they don't need him there. Think about it really hard, man.
I'm trying to. I think they kind of needed him there. Otherwise,
nope.
We wouldn't have been called Indiana Jones.
No, Indiana Jones. And this is, I know we're segueing a little bit. Indiana Jones was only called Indiana Jones after the Temple of Doom, right? It was called Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the very first one. It wasn't Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was called Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? And then after that, they said Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, the Last Crusades. But technically, you don't need Indiana Jones on Raiders of the Lost Ark, nor do you need him on the Temple of Doom whatsoever.
Oh, if you're just talking about the name on the title?
No. The person. You don't need him. Anyway, watch. Okay, I know we're talking about Star Wars and all that, but I know it's George Lucas and all that stuff. After this, watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. They don't need Indiana Jones because the Germans would have ended up finding the Ark the exact same way. Indiana Jones was just there.
Well, yeah, technically, if you think about it, they open the Ark, they all die anyway. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, they would have found the book. They would have found the book. They would have found the necklace and all that stuff. Nothing. They don't need them. but that's neither here or there. Just that's what Jar Jar is. He's a fucking Indiana Jones. You don't need him. Like you never needed him. And it's just awful to have Jar Jar in there. But what do you got to do? You got to sell toys.
You got to sell
right?
toys.
You got to sell toys. It's the same way with the pod racing, right? If
Yeah.
you look at the pod racing part on episode 1, you don't need the pod racing there. You technically did not need that whole, what is that, 10-minute scene? It was 10 minutes?
10, 12.
10, 12 minutes? You don't need a pod racing. Tell me a good reason why you need the pod racing there.
It was a story mechanic used to get Anakin out of being a slave.
Fantastic. You could have just described that, like the whole thing. Because essentially they're just like, oh, if Anakin wins, right? If Anakin wins, he's free and all that stuff, right? That was the deal, right? You didn't need to show him winning. You could have just showed him like looking at the screen or something, or them talking. They went vroom, vroom, vroom. Anakin wins.
Where's the fun in that?
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying it's like.
And partly that's part of George Lucas, though. He's a big fan of speed. That's why he is. He's a big car lover and stuff like that. Like he is a giant fan of speed and space.
Yeah. And mechanical and like aerodynamically, those pod racers, they should never been able to be operated. Like if you really think about it, if you really think about the pod racers, if they were in real life, like right now, like it's a fucking desert here in Bakersfield. Let's just say somebody built a pod racer the exact same way, right? Did you know that would have never worked?
I mean, it's science.
Yeah, I get it. But I'm just saying. I'm trying to ruin Star Wars here for you.
Oh. You can't ruin Star Wars.
No, but the thing is, I understand. It is something that's fun and it's something that to look at. But I'm saying is that you could do without the scene. There's some scenes in episode 1 because this is what when I watch episode 1, and don't get me wrong, episode 1 is like my favorite. My wife's favorite is episode 1. Like she loves episode 1.
She's a Jar Jar fan.
No, she doesn't like Jar Jar at all, man. She hates Jar Jar, man. She likes the whole Darth Maul's part. But if you really think about it, the thing that irks me the most about episode 1 is that there are scenes that are taken out that shouldn't be taken out, and there's some scenes that left in that should be taken out.
Well, okay, let's hear it. What would you, if Star Wars Episode 1 was your movie, what would you take out?
So essentially, I would have taken out the whole running from the tanks from Naboo of introducing Jar Jar Binks.
Okay.
Right? I think there could have been a better way to introduce Jar Jar Binks. I think everyone could agree on that. Right?
Or not introduce Jar Jar Binks.
Or not just introduce Jar Jar Binks. It's one of those things. Just not introduce Jar Jar Binks, right? The whole water scene when they're just like diving in and all that stuff, and they were just, you see them like floating. There was like a good minute. They were just going like this, and just kind of like this big reveal of like the sea city and all that stuff. You could do without that. You could do like just them diving in kind of thing, and then cut to a different scene and show something else. And then the next scene, you just see them kind of just seeing the underwater city and just going in, instead of like that whole 1 minute thing.
So you would just trim that whole thing down a bit.
I mean, yeah, I would just trim that down. The pod racers scene. Let me put it this way, okay? You remember when Fast and the Furious came out?
Yeah.
Right? It was all about the cars, right? It's all about the racing. Fast and Furious 1, 2, and then Tokyo Drift. Nobody talks about Tokyo Drift. Okay. Nobody talks about Tokyo Drift. But Vin Diesel came back and said, you know what? We can do Fast and Furious again and not show the racing part. Do you remember that part?
No, I didn't watch after 3.
So there was a scene when they're in Brazil, and then they go, "Okay, well, we need cars." They're like, "I think we can get some cars," and you're like, "Oh shit, they're gonna race." And then the next scene, they're just like, "We got 2 cars." I mean, it's understood that they went racing, and they won 2 cars. Does that make sense?
But
Like you didn't need it, or you're just kind of like, okay, they got 2 cars that went racing. I get it, right? With the pod racing scene, I think you can go without it, or do 1 lap and then have an intense conversation between Qui-Gon and what was the guy's owner, the slave owner?
Otto.
Yeah, and have a conversation with him the whole time while they're looking at like the screen, and then you see like Anakin's name just going back and forth like this, right? And then there's like an intense like back and forth staring, and then conversation, and you see like you see Obi-Wan kind of tense about it because he's still a Padawan kind of thing. He's like, "Oh shit, man, what the fuck are you doing, man? You just like bet you just bet our ship, man. What the fuck's wrong with you?" kind of thing, right? And that would have been fine. Like, think about it really hard, right?
I think
Like,
it was fine the way it was. That's what I think you're thinking a little too hard into this.
Like,
I think you just don't like pod racing.
It's kind of like
what it is.
It's kind of like remember when when he remastered episode 4, 5, and 6, and then he just added like a couple of like these creatures walking by, and a couple of stormtroopers walking in the side in the city, and you're just like I paid extra money just so I could see that. Like, I didn't have to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was the biggest criticism of like the remaster for episode 4, 5, and 6. And I think South Park made fun of it too as well. I don't know if you saw that part.
I did.
Yeah. So see, I'm thinking the exact same way as Trey Parker and Matt Stone, man. I'm thinking the exact same way they are. So the pod racing thing, although fun, I think they're gonna trim it down to just 1 pace.
Like, well, originally, like I said, it was 2 laps.
Yeah, it was.
I'm like, wait, no, camera. There we
go. Maybe he was thinking the same thing. He's like, man, I think 3 laps is too far. Yeah, maybe that's what he was thinking. He's like, 3 laps, that's too much. 1 is too less. 2 is just enough. It's like ibuprofen, right? When you take
then either way, he did what he normally does, and he just adds more.
Yeah.
After it comes out.
And it just adds more. It's kind of like ibuprofen, right? It's like if you have a headache and you're an adult, you're taking ibuprofen. You don't want to take 2 because that's 2 less. You don't want to take 4 because that'll kill you. So you take 3, right? Just right, man. Just the right amount of dose, man. That's how modern medicine for you, man. That's how it works. But yeah, the pod racing thing, and then I didn't understand the whole his mom not being able, not part of the deal kind of thing, right? Like, no, I understand his mom wasn't part of the deal, but you're gonna just knock her out, right?
Remember,
there wasn't.
They have a bomb implanted in them, basically.
Oh, do they really?
He explained it.
It's kind of like a Suicide Squad kind of thing.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah, they explain it.
How did they take off Anakin's implant?
Hey, that was one of those things we didn't see on screen.
Oh, god damn it, man. So that's like something that should have been there. Jesus Christ, man. George Lucas, what the fuck, man?
I mean, maybe it was put somewhere where we shouldn't see. Maybe that's it. It's like, no, we can't show that. That's too no. That's
like they can't explain it. Yeah, the bomb is in the head, and they're just like, whoa, you can't say that. It's for kids, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have. Man, I didn't know that. Is that what they said? Where did they say that?
I think when he's talking to Padme while they're looking for the engine, or it's at his house before they meet C-3PO. I don't know. Somewhere around there.
They said it there?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Oh, I didn't even know that, man. I didn't even know that. Oh,
Did you watch the movie, Tim? Come on, man.
I did watch the movie. That's why I'm criticizing this movie heavily, man. Like, I love this movie, but like Again, that was like something that I didn't notice. So before we move forward, guys, we gotta pay some bills. So like I said before, we got a brand new sponsor too as well. Our sponsor this time around for this Star Wars episode, it's T-Mobile. T-Mobile gets a lot of coverage in the United States, even when you're traveling and all that stuff, and you can listen to a podcast just like ours, just like this podcast. They have a lot of coverage and whatnot. So there you go, T-Mobile. Anyways, T-Mobile, guys, go to T-Mobile.com. There you go. So with Anakin now freed, now this is basically technically this is the big reveal for Darth Maul.
Yes.
Because prior to this, we saw scenes with him and Emperor Palpatine and all that. No, it was Sidious. It was Darth Sidious, right?
Yep. Same guy.
Same guy. Darth Sidious.
He wasn't the Emperor yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll call him properly Darth Sidious. So you see him with Darth Sidious, and how many lines did Ray Fisher had? They said it was like 5 or 6 or something like that. It didn't have that much lines.
He says, "At last we'll reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge." That's the only words he.
Well, that was it. Didn't he say "Yes, Master" or something like that?
Oh, maybe he did. Maybe he did, but he didn't say much of anything after that. He didn't have much.
He didn't have that much lines. Like he didn't.
And that wasn't even Ray Park's voice either.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't his voice. It was like someone else's voice. It was the guy from the Guardians of the Galaxy. The first one. I forgot his name. You know what he looks like. He's one of the officers from Guardians of the Galaxy. Remember when they were being when they're walking in the line and they're profiling him? They're called the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like, oh, they're such awful people. That guy.
Really? I don't.
Yeah, it was him. I swear to God. He was the voice of Darth Maul.
I'm gonna find out right now.
Yeah, he was the voice of Darth Maul. It wasn't Ray Parks' voice, but it was that guy. I forgot his name. You've seen him everywhere before. And if you remember the scene of Guardians of the Galaxy #1, when they're being attacked by Ronan the Accuser, the guy was like forming this wall, and then Star-Lord looks at him and he goes, "I hope you're right about this," kind of stuff. Do you remember? You know his name.
I gonna find out. Let's see.
You know his. No, you go to Guardians of the Galaxy.
It says Peter Serafinowicz is his name. Is the voice of Darth Maul in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, so take a look his click on his profile, and we know his
Holy
face.
Crap. Okay.
See, I told you. Man. Oh, did I know something more than Nate?
He's been in a lot of stuff. Little Big Planet 3.
Oh shit!
Dark Souls 2.
I knew something.
Rick and Morty. He was in Rick and Morty.
Yeah, he's a cat. He's like almost a usual in Rick and Morty, but
yeah,
I knew something about.
And he played Battle Droids too, and he played a Gungan warrior.
Dark. So there you go.
You're right.
Yeah. What? I knew something about Star Wars that Nate didn't.
I don't know everything.
No, the only reason why I know is because of Sam Whitworth.
Sam Whitworth.
Yeah, because Sam Whitworth, man. Because I love that guy.
Awesome.
I love that guy, man. That Star Killer, man. I fucking love him. I still think that they should have had him in Obi-Wan.
That would have been cool.
That would have been fucking awesome, man.
They should have just made him like a special Inquisitor or something like that.
Like he would like if they ended Obi-Wan that way with like Star Killer there. Oh, everyone will be looking forward to like episode 2, like the second
season 2 or something like that.
Season 2. Oh my god, that would be the most anticipated one. But yeah, so Star Wars, Darth Maul, that was like technically the introduction for Darth Maul, and that scene could have been longer.
It was longer.
Well, did George Lucas say it was longer?
No, I told you it was longer. They took a part out of that fight at the very end, when
Mm.
when Qui-Gon jumps up to go into the ship, he jumps up there, and then Darth Maul follows after him. They fight for like maybe 10 seconds up there, and then Qui-Gon kicks him off. But there's, I think, more of them fighting on the ground too, because I remember before Episode One came out, I had, I think, what was it, Star Wars Insider magazine. This was like '98. I
Mm-hmm.
think I had this, and it showed like a whole bunch of stuff, like pictures from the movie as they were filming it, and it
Right.
showed them doing fighting that they didn't show in the actual movie.
Because that was another cut scene that made no sense because they just came to that scene and you see them just running.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
there was a part of that, part of before that too, that they didn't
Yeah,
show also leading up to that whole scene.
that whole scene because it just was kind of weird that you just see them running, and then he just turns around and said, "Anakin, watch out."
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it didn't make sense to me. So again, another one of those things where things got cut, where like you should have been cut. You know what I mean? And then when he jumped off in the ship, that was another one there too as well. So I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, man. It just that was the weird part. But like, I don't know. Do you think that whole part should have been longer?
I do. I really do.
It should have been longer, right?
Because
Because maybe
I felt like it was. I think George Lucas cut it because he didn't want to overdo Darth Maul at that point. He wanted to like save the real kind of intense part
yeah, I
for
think you're
the
right.
end, for the
Yeah,
end. But
I think you're
still,
right. Yeah.
I love lightsabers, so more is always good for me.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think you're right about that. And then the whole thing was just all about like the battle of like of Naboo and all that stuff. I think after that there weren't that much unnecessary cuts. I think
Yeah,
he left off like he left all of them there. I think so. Because it seems like it just kind of pieced together. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Because like anything leading up to the whole fight for Naboo, there was some stuff that should have been cut, and there was things that was that's left off there that should have been cut to as well. But when you get to that fight for Naboo and from the ground and from the sky, it doesn't seem like there was anything that's cut in there. It seems everything just kind of fits. Does that make sense?
yeah. I think most of that was the same. I think it's been a while since I've seen deleted scenes, so
Like he just kept it that way, right? He just kept it that way. But the reveal for Darth Maul. So let's talk about the reveal for Darth Maul and why it saved episode one. Okay. And why episode one's like
I
one of the
mean,
most
saved Episode One.
it saved episode if you didn't have that reveal, people have been like, this thing is fucking
I
sucks.
mean, people are gonna hate what I'm about to say regardless, but still, I think Episode One is the worst Star Wars movie. That's my
Episode man, episode one is like the best one just because of this one scene. And that one scene is when those doors, the cargo doors open and you see Darth Maul in there. And then you see them like it was a perfect reveal. Okay. Everyone was getting out, and then all of a sudden the cargo doors open and you see Darth Maul in there. And then Qui-Gon just like get everybody out of there, right? And you see like, and then all of a sudden they just took their lightsabers out, right? And then just Darth Maul just comes out with just like one, and that was the scene where everyone hasn't seen a double-bladed lightsaber yet. Okay,
ever.
ever. And this is why, like, I believe the internet nowadays ruins everything because this is pre-internet. You didn't even know there was a double lightsaber anywhere, nor there was any talk. There was no gossip. There was nothing. It was the well-hidden secret. Even after the movie was out, people didn't even talk about the double-bladed lightsaber, right? So they took out the lightsaber. Darth Maul took out his thing just like this one, like horizontally, and then you see the one blade comes out, and you're just like, oh shit's about to go down. And then the second one comes out, and I've never heard a theater so quiet in my whole life. Like I still remember that. I was like, man, how old was I? Like 14, 15 years old when I saw that with my uncle. Actually, I saw that with my uncle. People would usually gasp and be like, like that, right? But people were savoring that moment that they just saw a double lightsaber, and people were just the theater was quiet, but telepathically everybody was unison and going,
like, oh my god,
holy shit, right? Like, what the fuck did I just see? And that was the moment, to me, until this day, should have been more scenes. Because first off, you saw the double lightsaber for the first time. It was a full reveal of Darth Maul. And that was, and who was the composer? It was John Williams, right? It wasn't John Williams, right?
No.
Who was the composer for Star Wars? It was John Williams, right?
Yeah.
It was John Williams. And hey, was it John Williams?
Yes, it was John Williams.
I was like,
only John Williams.
I was like, it is John Williams. He's the only one, right?
Yeah, until recently, yeah.
And that was like that was when you hear the genius of like John Williams, because it was it was the first time that you heard the duel of the faiths. And I just, till this day, I wish and hope that there was a cutscene, that there was no scene where they're going back and forth from the sky, from the space, and to the land, when they're showing the fight scene for Naboo, and they just showed like
the whole interaction,
fucking 15 minutes of like I just want 15 minutes of of that scene. Till now, I'm an adult now. I still want that 15 minutes. But when I was a kid, I wish so much that they would have gone back and showed the whole lightsaber battle, because when I was watching it, I don't know how you felt. I'm gonna ask you how you felt about it when you first saw it. When I first saw it, and they kept cutting from sky to land, and sea as well. The sky, land, and sea. Every time I saw that, I was like, can you get back to
the lightsaber?
fucking lightsaber battle, please? Like, enough of this shit. I don't fucking care, man. Like, I mean, like, how did you feel when you first saw that whole double lightsaber?
All right, so I like all of Star Wars. Unlike, there's some people out there that are like you, like, oh, I just like the lightsabers. Oh, I just like this. I just like Mandalorians. I just like that. I mean, I like all of it. I love the space battles. The freaking, Mandalorians, the Jedi, lightsabers, blasters. I love all of it. All of it as a whole makes Star Wars, and that's what I love, Star Wars.
Right.
So, but when I saw that scene, I'm not gonna lie, I was right there with you. I was like, no, I just want to see this.
It was, man. It was. It was one of those things where you just wanted to be extended, and until this day,
there is more to it somewhere. It has to be more.
There has to be, because the funny thing is that if you scour YouTube and you find that scene, there's people making cutscenes of it just so that it's extended, and you just see that whole scene,
the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing, and it's never the same. Like, you just want a full set of it, and just the whole John Williams goodness. And the thing about the Duel of the Faith is that even the music of it was cut off every time they were going back and forth.
Yeah, they'd either lower it or they'd cut it and then slowly cut back into it.
And then slowly cut back to it. And even that was cut off, right? And I think that's what they didn't want to happen in Obi-Wan on the Disney Plus series, because if you notice, the fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan was extended. It was long.
Yeah, and they cut it, and then they cut it back to it, which I also hate. I'm like, no, just show the whole thing.
yeah, just show the whole thing.
But I will say I was upset that they didn't use Duel of the Fates in that. I was like,
oh yeah, that was very upsetting. Yes, that was definitely very upsetting. But I think you can find like somebody doing a cutscene of that, or just Duel of the Fates.
Trust me, I found it.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did. And there's a guy re-editing the whole season into a giant movie.
Really?
He's a guy who used to work at Lucasfilm. And
so it's on YouTube right now?
I don't know if it's up yet, but he was doing it himself, and he used to work for Lucasfilm. So, and he added more actors. He paid actors to fill in some parts.
No
Yeah,
way.
he's like re-editing it for like a 2-hour movie.
Dude, show me the whole duel of the faith of that thing, man, because I want to see it. I
Yeah.
want to see it. I think that's the only getting me goosebumps a little bit because I want to see it, man. Yeah, they cut off the duel of the faith in there, and then the whole Darth Maul fight scene. I think it could have been between him and Obi-Wan could have been longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could have been a little bit more longer.
But yeah, it was. I think it was just right because it was basically Obi-Wan saying, "Nah, this is it. I mean, I'm not letting you live.
Yeah,
You're done.
yeah,
Like you just killed my master. You're done."
yeah. Because it's just man, I wish that was a little bit longer, just because I wanted to see Obi-Wan just be more rageful. Like he was rageful there, but I wanted to be more like an aggressive type.
But I mean, he was aggressive. I mean, I
Yeah,
can't, you don't want to say he was using the dark side of the force or anything like that, but he was very
yeah,
aggressive. He was the attacker at that point.
yeah. It was like it seems like he was there was more aggressiveness in Obi-Wan
Yeah,
than
and
than this
Maul.
than this one, right?
Mhm.
So I really wanted to see him more aggressive on it. I think they could have extended a little bit more because the cutting of Darth Maul's body,
Also, yeah,
it didn't have the same effect. Um, kind of. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. It's just kind of weird because I don't know if you felt the same way with that though, because it just seems like he got out of the force field and they did the fights, and then ba, and then he fell off, got the lightsaber, cut him off. You know what I mean? I felt like there should be more aggressive fight in there where like they're just going at it, ta, 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 and then the cut scene would have been like back and forth, like a split second for in between. Like you see Darth Maul's
yeah.
face and then his face and their face, and just keep cutting in between while they're just kind of clashing, and then just one swipe, and
I
then he just
I
falls off.
think it was paced perfectly fine. That's my opinion. I think it was
Yeah,
perfectly fine because I don't know. I feel like if you would have extended, you would have like gotten out. It was all like part of a heat of the moment kind of thing. I
yeah,
feel like if you would have extended it, the pressure would have felt less.
yeah.
So I think it ended the way it was supposed to.
Do you think? Let me ask you this though. Do you think cutting Darth Maul's body was planned, and so that they can extend his story later on?
No, that wasn't planned to extend it later on.
Because everything with George,
I think that was Dave Filoni's idea to bring back Darth Maul.
because it seems like everything is planned with George Lucas. Because I've heard the reason why he started in episode 5, 6, and 7,
4, 5, and
4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, is because he wanted the technology to catch up to where it was back in 1999 in order to make 1, 2, and 3. Because in his head, because I heard a rumor that in his head, what we saw on episode 1, 2, and 3 could never, in his mind, could have never been done in 1970s,
I mean,
where episode 4, 5, and 6 are the only thing possible back then, and then he waited until he did episode 1, 2, and 3.
part of that's true, but the problem with that whole thing is that George Lucas changes the story all the time,
Yeah,
all the time. So I'd say yes, part of that's true, but I think the other part is he said it before that he wanted to go the more interesting part of the story, and that for him was the most interesting part was 4, 5, and 6.
because
So
that was like the biggest mystery of all time with Star Wars. Like, why did you start at 4, 5, and 6, right? And when episode 1, 2, and 3 was planned, yeah, I heard somewhere that he was planning it for like years. Like he knew. So the story that I've heard is that he knew that episode 2, 3, and 4 are going to be heavily CG'd on it, and he wanted that to develop first.
well,
That's
the
that's
thing
that's
is,
what I heard.
back in the day, they didn't even know what CGI was. So like,
Yeah,
I
'cause that's when he developed industrial arts and magic, right?
ILM.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, but most of it I think was just down to what he could tell.
Yeah.
So, and that's what he could tell and felt most comfortable with, even though he didn't feel 100% with it. That's why he made the special editions.
Mhm.
Plus, I think he also wanted to do the special edition so he could get more funding so he could make 1, 2, and 3.
Because if you really think about it, though, let's just say he did episode 1, 2, and 3 first. How would he do that practical? He
Same
would,
way he did it before. It would just
but
it would have been less of a bigger scale, and it'd be a lot more props, a lot more matte paintings.
but you know that the pod racing scene would never be possible. It
No,
wouldn't be. It
no,
wouldn't be possible.
he probably would have switched it out for something else.
Yeah, he would have probably switched it off for something else. Yeah, that's true. Because if you think about the final scene in the final scene in episode 4, that was a lot of practical,
Yeah,
right? It would have been like that.
it was all camera work. That's all it was. It
I
was
don't know. I
model,
think
camera moving.
yeah.
That's all it really was.
I think the whole mystique of it just it's just fun to think about that he just wanted to wait for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, here's what I'm going to ask you before we start ending this podcast though. Do you think it was the way that episode 1 turned out? Do you think that it could have turned out differently and it would have been fine?
Yes, and I'll give my little spiel here.
Mm,
Things I probably would have if you were to take episode 1, let's
mhm.
say the full 6 hours of it that there is, supposedly, how to make it less bad or less undesirable.
You really hate episode 1. I don't know why you hate it. It's
Um,
so good, man. Darth Maul, bro. Darth Maul saved it.
that it didn't save it. It definitely made it better than what it is, but all right, so a few things that I would recommend if I was back in George Lucas's camp while he's editing this video or movie,
Right.
I'd be like, all right, well, Jar Jar, let's take him. He could literally take out. Let's say Jar Jar's in it for about 25 minutes.
Right.
You could probably, after me watching it, it's probably less than that. He's probably in it less than that. But
Right.
speaking role wise, you could probably tone him down to maybe about a total of 10 minutes,
10 minutes.
8 to 10 minutes, and he could be still kind of cheesy, but to
Right.
where you're not killing your audience
Right.
with it.
Right.
That's one thing. Two, I would have never casted Jake Lloyd as Anakin, mainly because
Really?
not because of him, but
Mhm.
because of his age. I would have picked someone. First of all, you got Natalie Portman, who I think was 15 going on 16 at the time, and you had
I think that was her that was her big role since the professional.
Professional,
I think so
Leon the
if I'm
Professional,
not
yeah.
mistaken. Yeah.
And then you have Jake Lloyd, who was 8 going on 9 at the time.
Right.
If you put those two together, that's a little creepy. That's kind of like
Hmm.
if you think about it. So,
Well, they weren't. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's stop there for a second. They're not romantically linked at that time.
but
I mean,
still, if you wanna think about it, even in the future, it's like, well,
it's kind of messed up that people are
robbing the
thinking they're
cradle a
like,
little bit there, aren't we, Natalie?
and plus, what we're gonna get to episode 2 later on the next episode, but they haven't seen each other for years, so technically there was no pedophilia in there. Technically, like if you really think about
It doesn't matter. It's still bad. It's still bad. It makes you wonder, George, what were you thinking?
I mean, I agree with you. I think they could have made him older.
I think they would have been better choosing an actor between the ages of 11 to 13. And I think the acting of mainly because his acting wasn't bad, it's the fact that it made it too childish. I mean,
I think so.
I understand it's like his story arc that he's trying to convey is that this is innocence lost. This was a kid who was pure of heart, who
Yeah,
becomes filled with hate, grief, and
right.
all that because of what happens to him over time. But they still could have conveyed the same thing with someone who was between the ages of 11 and 12, and it
That
wouldn't have been as
Yeah. Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a harder pill to swallow, in my opinion.
Then they should have just made Natalie Portman's character younger then.
But would you buy a younger person as a senator? She's already like 14 to like 15, 16 in this
I
movie.
mean,
That's
I mean,
would
I'm,
you want a senator here in the United States?
okay, that's different though. But
How is that different?
if you really think about it, the idea of Star Wars and where it was taking from, it was where it was the influence from. It was influence in Japanese culture, was it not? Some parts of it.
Some parts of it, yes, but
Okay.
this is not Japanese culture.
I get that. I'm saying the influence there, right? There's an influence in Japanese culture, and there was some influence in the Chinese culture. And during Chinese dynasty, yes, some emperors are younger, right? Some emperors could be as young as 5 years old, technically, but they have an advisor and then they have a mother and all that stuff. So if they made Queen Amidala younger and they made Anakin a little older, that would have made sense, right? So let's just say, how old do you want Anakin to be?
Anakin would have been fine if he was. You could put him as 12, almost 13.
There you go.
Padme, you could just left Padme alone. You could have left her alone.
well, if you made Padme at 12 and 13, it would have been fine.
I don't think it would have.
It would. I'm just saying, based on
I'm saying based on our society today, everybody would have still been like, "Oh my god, this girl is 12 and she's telling people what the fuck to do over for like some galactic." No.
Yeah, but if I'm just going by like Star Wars fans, just like yourself, a hardcore Star Wars fan as yourself, a casual Star Wars fan as myself, when we know what the basis of Star Wars was, would you be fine with that? If they were both 13 years old, would you buy it? Because I mean,
it's still hard. It's hard to buy it right now, but like,
I'm saying,
I'm saying no.
You're saying no. Okay.
For me, you just have to keep Padme where she is and make Anakin like 13.
Because if you think about it, what about Game of Thrones? Right? Season the final season.
Yeah, but look at that. That is in its period. It is more set in its period than Star Wars. Star Wars is in its own thing. You know, yeah, Game of Thrones is in its own thing, but it's basing itself heavily on medieval. And it has all the influences there where it's like, they have armor, they have, dragons which don't exist in medieval times, but it's more there than where Star Wars is. Star Wars is
like the way I look at it is this, okay? If you can convince people in the 70s that two brothers can kiss and almost fell in love.
Two brothers?
I mean siblings. Yeah, it has to be. You have to do Star Wars again, man. More inclusivity in here, guys.
That was still a hard pill to swallow for everybody back then too.
Yeah, if you had a brother, if you were able to convince a brother and sister kiss, I mean, you can convince anybody anything.
But then again, back in the day, back at that time, in episode 4, there was no inkling that they were brother and sister. Episode 5. There still kind of wasn't, and then episode 6 was like, yeah, you're brother and sister. You needed a new twist. The twist in episode 5 was the whole Luke, I am your father. Now we need something else. Oh, you're my sister.
But I guess so. But like, I know we're jumping episodes in here, but I just want to know your thoughts on this. I mean, George Lucas knew where Star Wars was heading, and he already knew, and he already wrote it and all that stuff. It's kind of creepy that he knew that there's going to be brothers and sisters and they're going to be kissing. That's kind of creepy.
I mean,
that's the creepy part.
I'm going to defend him here. I think when he was writing episode 4, he wasn't set on it. But when he did episode 5, I think he's like, yeah, I'm probably going to make them for sure brother and sister. Because originally in a draft, he had Luke, I think, having a different sister originally. I think. Somewhere out there, I think it was an original draft. Or
it's kind of like the same thing as for like Back to the Future too, as well, right? You knew that was going to be his mother, and you knew that was going to happen. You knew that he was going to kiss his mother too. I'm just saying that as a writer, I'm not a writer, but them as a writer, they knew where the story was going to head. Why I mean, it's kind of creepy. I'm just saying. Like you
I'm
got
not saying it's not creepy. It's very creepy.
that's kind, and then there hasn't been anything like that since because everybody knew it was fucking creepy. Like you're not gonna say that that Ray and man, I'm forgetting here. Ray and was that
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren? Yeah, you're not gonna say Ray and Kylo Ren were cousins, even though when everybody was watching those episodes, you're like, yo, they're related somehow. Like everybody was thinking that because it's Star Wars. Everyone's
Yeah.
fucking related and
You've
everyone's
already been
kissing.
traumatized once.
Yeah, no one was traumatized by it. They're like, we know this is Star Wars. They're related somehow, right? Like, I'm just saying, man. It's just kind of very creepy, man. That's all I'm saying. I
But
think that's. Oh yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say one thing I did want to say is that if you want to get a good idea what George Lucas was originally thinking when he was originally writing Star Wars, like
Right.
his first draft,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going into comic books here. Pick up George Lucas's I think it was just called George Lucas's Star Wars. It's 8
Mm-hmm.
issues and it's basically his original draft turned into comic book form.
I remember that with Star Killer and all that
Yeah,
stuff, right?
Mike Mayhew did all the art. I have all the issues.
Yeah.
So it was really good.
I remember that they had him the Star Killer and all that. He has a different costume too as well and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Darth Vader looks a lot weirder and
Yeah, Luke Skywalker is somebody totally different.
yeah, it was like totally different and all that stuff. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. It was released by it was
It
who
was
released
Dark
it? Dark
Horse.
Horse?
Dark
It was
Horse.
Dark Horse? Yeah. I was gonna say it was Dark Horse who released it. I
I
remember
really,
that, man.
I really think Disney should make an animated show just based on that. Just do the rough draft and just make an animated show on it, like a one-off.
Yeah. Before we end the podcast, man, what do you think about the Star Wars shorts that Disney's doing right now?
Like which shorts? The Visions.
Yeah, the Visions.
I like them. I don't like all the episodes, but some of them
Oh,
are good.
I'm loving the Visions, man. I'm telling you, see, I told you, man, it's heavily influenced by Japanese culture and stuff, man. I'm freaking loving it, man.
Well,
Like,
it's George Lucas was influenced by both East and West. Basically, the way he has
yeah,
it divided is Mandalorians are cowboys,
yeah,
Jedi's are samurai. That's it.
it's true.
That's
It's
what it
true.
is.
So if you want to see samurais, go against cowboys, it would be Star Wars.
Hey, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. And the funny thing too as well is like, did you hear about that theory about Harry Potter is a ripoff of Star Wars?
Yes, I have.
And it is a ripoff of Star Wars, technically though.
It is.
That's gonna be another topic though. It's gonna be another topic. But yes, so I like to say thank you to everybody who been listening to us here too as well on Star Wars Breaking Episodes. We're gonna have a title screen next week. This is a pilot episode. Obviously, we don't have a title screen yet. This will be a bi-weekly episodes, so you'll see it here and hear it here on Uncensored Nerds, specifically here on Spotify. It's going to be a Spotify exclusive. I'm also going to be sending this to Nate, the visual parts. You guys were going to see that on Nate's YouTube channel, which is, let them know, Nate, what YouTube channel that is.
YouTube Plot Hole Pros, Plot Hole Productions. Check us out. We do unboxing videos.
Just point
Yeah,
up.
it's right up there. If
It's
you
right up.
right there.
Yeah, it's right there. So right there, follow Nate right there, guys. Plot Holes Pros in there. The visual parts of this podcast will be in Plot Holes in there. The audio will be exclusive here on the Uncensored Nerds Spotify. So this is going to be a bi-weekly one. Next up is going to be episode 2. I can't believe I'm going to rewatch episode 2, man.
Hey, it's way better than episode 1, in my opinion.
I can't believe I'm gonna.
I have a few friends that will probably agree because they love Mandalorians.
I fucking hate episode 2. I mean, it was a joy to watch episode 1 again, but to watch episode 2 again, oh Jesus, man. Like,
I mean, episode 2 just had a crappy love story.
it's a goddamn C-SPAN, man. It's a
soap opera.
C-SPAN, is a C-SPAN of Star Wars. That's what it is, man. Episode 2 is the C-SPAN of Star Wars. That's all it is. It's all about the
I
Republic
mean,
and
hey,
all
we
that.
get the Imperial March at the very end, so
It was supposed to be like, it was supposed to be a love story, but then, man, I'm just gonna
George
unload on
Lucas
this.
can write love stories.
I'm just gonna unload on it next week, next time, man. I'm just, oh, geez, there's so much problems with episode 2. I mean, so much problem with episode 2, but that's just me. But yeah, anyways, guys, make sure you follow Nathan there at Plot Holes Productions there on Instagram. Follow him too on the YouTube channel there. That's he's gonna put this up. This is going to be in every Friday episodes, so that's why you guys are listening to this on Friday. When are you gonna put up the visual part of this, man? What are you thinking?
It should be Friday. I just not 100% sure on the time yet.
On Friday, there you go. So this will be up on Fridays, every Friday, guys. So you're hearing this on Friday right now, so you're gonna see this every Friday. Make sure you follow me on tmac01.drip on Instagram if you guys have any questions, and also follow me on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/at tmac01. Nate, any last words for all the Star Wars fans out there, man?
Well, I guess it would be simply, may the force be with you.
There you go. So, and I always end all my podcasts with the exact same words, even though this is Star Wars, it's still going to be the same words from the immortal words of Jay-Z. You guys could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. I appreciate that. We will see you guys next time. Episode 2, Clone Wars. Oh, God. Peace out, everybody.